Friend, Shabbat Shalom again. Thank you for the privilege of speaking with you this evening about some words of Torah. People have this belief that the story of Noah is some amusing, child-oriented story. They are very much mistaken. The story of Noah is quite dark. It deals with a world that is evil, and God, the creator of us all, decides to destroy the world. This is what we know about what happens to Noah, according to this legend. He is the only righteous man of his generation. God tells him to build an ark that has 3 floors, and he does so. He will save his family, including his wife, their 3 sons, and their wives. He is also told to save the animal life of the earth, and I quote, and it's a little bit complicated, "Of every clean animal, you shall take 7 pairs, male and their mates. Of every animal which is not clean, 2, a male and its mates. Of the birds of the sky also 7 pairs, male and female, to keep seed alive upon all the earth." He enters the ark. The waters begin to rise. He spends really a year in the ark. He leaves the ark with his family and all the animals and builds an altar to God. He is told to be fruitful and multiply. A covenant is established with God, symbolized by the rainbow, that God will not destroy the world again. But all is not right. At the end of the story, there is something that is often overlooked, and it's probably the most interesting part of the story. I quote, "Noah, the tiller of the soil, was the first to plant a vineyard. He drank of the wine, and he became drunk, and he uncovered himself within his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his 2 brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a cloth, placed it against both of their backs, and walked backwards. They covered their father's nakedness. Their faces were turned the other way, so that they did not see their father's nakedness. Noah lived another 350 years. It is certainly admirable that 2 of his sons tried to protect his dignity, but a really painful, uncomfortable end of the Noah saga. So we know what he experienced, but can we create through speculation what he was feeling, a kind of psychobiography? His life is really a story of powerlessness. It is tragic. His world is about to be destroyed. He builds an ark, yet he feels incapable of convincing others of what is about to happen. He enters the ark, cooped in a sealed, dark, smelly, surreal place. And the Torah is silent about what happens in the ark, but the Midrash tells us something. It's rather innovative and intriguing. It says, Midrash tells us that Noah and his sons did not sleep for a year because all the animals needed feeding around the clock. And some of the animals were dangerous. A lion bit Noah so badly that he carried the scars for the rest of his life. It must have taken all of his strength just to hold on to his sanity. The world is being destroyed around him. He doesn't know if he will live or die, or whether he wants to live at all, or what kind of world will exist after the flood. The waters recede, he emerges, but everything that he has known has been destroyed. How does anyone endure such events? What happens to Noah? He is a classic victim of PTSD, of post-traumatic stress disorder. The first one in the story of civilization. This psychiatric disorder arises among people who have experienced or witnessed traumatic events, such as natural disaster or serious accident or a terrorist attack, war or rape, or have been threatened with death, sexual violence, or serious injury. And because of PTSD, the result of it are these intense, disturbing thoughts and feelings related to their experiences that can last really to the end of their lives. And what is most unfortunate is Noah is alone. Who can he turn to? No one is left. And what happens? He grows grapes, makes wine, and drowns his troubles in alcohol. His behavior becomes irrational, inappropriate, but we certainly can relate to that. He self-medicates. His world is so painful. But PTSD is only a partial dimension of the psychological implications of this story. Because Noah's mental breakdown casts light on mental health in general and mental health of our own nation at this time in our history. We are all potentially Noahs. And here are some of the facts that I came together, that I collected from the year 2020. In late June 2020, 40% of U.S. adults reported struggling with mental illness or substance use. 1 in 6 U.S. youth ages 6 through 17 experience a mental health disorder each year. 1 in 6. Half of all lifetime mental illness begins by the age of 14, and 75% by the age of 24. The average delay between the onset of mental illness and treatment is 11 years. And suicide is the second leading cause of death among people ages 10 through 34 in the United States, and the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. And we have now these surreal discussions about vaccine and masks, which become a distraction from the real issues that we face. The profound mental health challenges before the pandemic have been magnified by the isolation, death, fear, confusion of the pandemic. And many of us are psychologically at our wits' end, and that is what Noah teaches us this year. I am absolutely certain that some people seeing our worship through this camera tonight have mental health struggles. You know who you are. I am absolutely certain that we know people who have mental health struggles. I am absolutely certain that we know people who have committed suicide who are suicidal. I am absolutely certain that there are people engaged in our services with substance abuse challenges. And here is the roadblock preventing healing. People don't want to share this with others. People don't want to see a way out. When people can't see a way out when they're in the middle of these struggles. And that is what Noah experiences when he takes the grapes, makes the alcohol, and wants to drown his soul because he can't confront life. We do not have to suffer alone. If you're suicidal, call immediately a suicidal hotline. 800-273-8255. You can Google it in 2 seconds. If you're not feeling well, overwhelmed, depressed, the world seems like it's spinning out of control, first tell someone who cares about you and make an appointment immediately with your doctor and get referral or find a good psychiatrist. If you need mental health assistance now, the counseling is available through Jewish Family Services. Or if you need some guidance and direction, call me and we can speak confidentially. I'm trained to help you. At the beginning of civilization, Noah falls apart. That's what the story is about. He is overwhelmed by the reality of his life. He experiences trauma that no one could endure without scars. Not one of us could have done better than Noah. But the good news is that life is better now than it was in his mythic time. We live in a more enlightened age where people understand mental illness, that it's not a weakness, but it's a disease, and there are ways to help. There are lifelines out there that can be used to bring us out of the darkness, but they do no good unless we reach out to grab them. Please, God, let us all feel hope in our moments of darkness. Let us be supportive of those who are hurting, and let us assist them in connecting to people who can help them to find their way. Shabbat Shalom.